there's two things I talk about all day, every day in my clinic. One is menopausal weight gain and the other is a loss of libido. And the two can be connected. If you're not feeling comfortable in your body, if you're feeling self-conscious, then that's going to affect how you feel as a sexual being. And so yes, loss of libido can be so much more than just a loss of estrogen. It's actually multifaceted, and I'm going to walk through the different things that can affect libido and give you 8 tips to help boost your sex drive. Hi, I'm Chelsea Green, holistic hormone specialist, and I help women transition from peri to post-menopause naturally using homeopathy, herbs, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. One of the ways I do that is with my Empowered Menopause program. It's a 1-to-1 4-month program, and within that I have a module on sexual health. Within that module I have a PDF download. It's a checklist on sexual health plus resources, all my favorite recommendations, and I realized it would complement this video beautifully. So if you would like to grab yourself a copy, you can find a link to it in the notes below this video. Okay, tip number 1, reduce your stress levels. So understanding libido is all about understanding the brain, and sex, as far as the brain concerned, is all about procreation, i.e. having a baby. And stress, as far as the brain concerned, is a threat to life. And in order to preserve life when stressed, the brain will dampen down or switch off any functions that are not critical to your survival. So if the brain believes your life is in danger, i.e. you're stressed all day, every day, then the last thing that you need in that environment is to be pregnant and to be having a baby. So libido, sexual interest, it's switched off in order to preserve life. And in menopause, we naturally have higher stress levels. Lower estrogen results in higher stress levels. And so if you think about it, that's our starting place. And then we lead busy lives, we give all of ourselves away to other people, we're caring for people, working, etc., etc. We have all these layers on top. And then we have 24-hour news cycles, constant emails, dings, notifications, alarms, social media, traffic jam. The brain views all of these things in the same way as a real threat to life. So that's another layer of stress. And then we have inflammatory foods, molds, toxins, air pollution, medications, parasites, sleep problems, over-exercising, under-exercising, and any unresolved trauma. And all of those are more layers of stress on top. So is it any wonder the brain believes that you are in no state to have sex? And I just wanted to demonstrate how stressed we actually are, because a lot of women that I speak to will tell me, I don't have any major stress in my life. And that may be true for the big stresses, but all day long we're exposed to micro stress doses, and they have a cumulative effect. So we have all these micro stress doses going on all day long on top of those naturally higher cortisol levels that we have. We have to acknowledge that we have high stress levels, and we have to do the daily self-care. Self-care, stress reduction, whatever you want to call it, it is paramount to your menopausal experience, and I am going to do a whole series on it. So make sure you are subscribed and you've hit the bell to get the notifications of my videos. Tip number 2 is connection. Often as a result of being too stressed, of living a life that is way too busy, we lose connection both with ourselves and with our partner. In fact, women often tell me they don't know what to do for self-care because they don't know what they like anymore. They don't even know what they enjoy anymore. So we get to this point in our life where we have to put ourselves first, where we have to do self-care, and we don't actually know what we even like or what we enjoy or what brings us happiness, because we've been at the bottom of the self-care pile for far too long. We might have been mothers, we might have been caring for elderly family members, we might have been focusing on our careers, we might have been doing all of the above. And with that, we've lost our connection to ourselves. And at the same time, we've probably just been existing alongside our partner, so we've lost that connection there as well. So we need to start reforming those connections both with ourselves and with our partner. And I always suggest just start with where you're at. It might just be holding hands, going for a walk, just spending some time together. Because the truth of the matter is sex is all about connection for women. And if you don't have that connection to yourself or to your partner, it's going to be very hard to reignite your libido. Okay, tip number 3 is to address any genitourinary issues. At menopause, with the loss of estrogen, we can often struggle with genitourinary symptoms such as vaginal dryness, painful sex, atrophy, UTI, UTIs, prolapse, leaky bladder, and all of these things can affect how you feel as a sexual being. And if you do struggle with any of this, please know that you're not alone. Often women can feel really embarrassed by things like this, and there is a lot that can be done. The first thing I recommend, if you have prolapse, leaky bladder, anything like that, get a really good pelvic floor physiotherapist. I had big babies, and I cannot tell you how invaluable it is having someone like this on your team, because it's often a case of not doing more pelvic floor exercises. You have to be doing the right type of pelvic floor exercises. Some women, they have too much tension in their pelvic floor. Some women find that the pelvic floor at the front is working but the back is not, and so it's getting the right type of exercise for you, and a physiotherapist can help with that. For dryness and atrophy, there's two things we have to focus on. The first is the vaginal microbiome. Yes, that's right, we have a microbiome within the vaginal canal. You've heard of the microbiome within the gut. It's very similar. It's lots of healthy bacteria, and we need to keep that healthy. And so that is a really good probiotic. And then in addition to that, we have to focus on the cell health of the vaginal wall. And it's a bi-directional relationship. So having healthy cells helps the microbiome, and having a microbiome helps with having healthy cells. And for healthy cell function, sea buckthorn oil is the go-to. I will link to both of the products that I like in the notes below, but this combination of a probiotic and the sea buckthorn oil really helps with atrophy and dryness, as well as recurrent UTIs. Tip number 4, check your medications. Certain medications can affect libido: blood pressure medication, antidepressants, anti-anxieties, and seizure meds, but I'm sure there's loads more. So if you are on medications, read the insert that comes with your medication. The side effects will be listed on there, and you might actually be really surprised to see what's in the side effects. A major cause of loss of libido for a lot of women, though, is the pill. And the pill is very toxic to our system. It leaves a toxic imprint in the system for long after you stop taking it, in fact, well into menopause. The pill increases sex hormone binding globulin, which results in lower libido. New research has found that sex hormone binding globulin does not automatically decrease once you stop taking the pill, and that sexual dysfunction in menopause can be caused by historic pill usage. And quite often I do homeopathically detox the pill out of my menopause clients. When we go back through their timeline, it's often such and such started once I finished the pills. We have ailments from pill, which indicates to me that it's still an issue. Tip number 5 is strength training. Strength training, which is actually the key sort of training you want to do for menopause, can help libido in a number of different ways. First off, it helps to boost testosterone levels. Women make small amounts of testosterone, and we need it for general get up and go, vigor, vitality, and for libido. Strength training can also be beneficial if you are struggling with pelvic floor issues. So going back to tip number 3, exercises like squats, deadlifts, and glute bridges all can be beneficial for the pelvic floor. But I would say you always do need to lift with pelvic floor integrity. You don't want to be lifting so heavy that you feel any downward pressure. Plus, if you have low mood, if you're not feeling body confident, if you are on the blood sugar roller coaster, strength training is going to help with all of those as well. Tip number 6 is maca. Maca is an ancient Peruvian superfood said to give you the virility of a horse, so well indicated in low libido states. Personally, I find it's 50-50. Some women say it helps, other women not so much. What maca is really good for is energy and stamina. So if you are still keen to have a sex life and you are interested in sex, but you get to the end of the day and you're just exhausted, maca could be really beneficial in that state. But it's also a phytoestrogen. It's full of fiber, so it helps to boost estrogen levels. It helps to balance blood sugar levels, and it's just an all-round great menopause food. Tip number 7, nutrition. Of course, you need to be eating to balance your blood sugar levels, but beyond that, we're looking at zinc-rich foods and foods that are going to enhance nitric oxide production. So zinc-rich foods. In tip number 3, I mentioned the health of the vaginal cells. Zinc is both important to the health of the cell and to the integrity of the tissue, and it is an essential nutrient for testosterone. So we want to be eating zinc-rich foods. Oysters is the food that is richest in zinc, which is why it's known as an aphrodisiac. But also grass-fed beef, lamb, pumpkin seeds, chickpeas, lentils, spinach, avocados, almonds, and eggs. And we want to be optimizing nitric oxide. Estrogen acts on the heart to stimulate nitric oxide production. As we have lower estrogen levels, we end up with lower nitric oxide. And it's essential for blood flow, particularly blood flow to erectile tissues. So we want to be eating foods like beetroot, or I think you call them beets in the States, garlic, rocket or arugula, dark chocolate, citrus, and and pomegranates. And use things like dry skin brushing, castor oil packs, and lymphatic massage to help stimulate blood flow. Okay, tip number 8 is homeopathic remedies. The first remedy is sepia, which is well indicated for prolapse, for leaky bladder, for low libido states. But it must have the matching emotional state, which is one of indifference. They're indifferent to everything, particularly sex. They are fed up, they're exhausted, they're dragged down, they're worn out. They want to be left alone and they feel better for exercise, better for vigorous exercise. Everything about them is dragged down. Their energy is dragged, their period pains are dragging pains, and they might have prolapse and leaky bladder. Next up is napmure. It covers aversion to sex and dryness. So often there is an aversion to sex because it's painful with dryness, and it covers low sex drive since grief. It's a big grief remedy, and from the grief, they become reserved and introverted. Everything becomes shut down and dried out. And when I use the word grief, I want you to think about grief beyond the loss of a loved one. It could be a loss of career, it could be a breakdown in marriage, it could be regret at lost opportunities. A grief simply means a loss of any form. There are, of course, lots of remedies for low libido. These are the two that I tend to use a lot alongside Australian bushflower essence, sexuality. So in case you have wondered about my accent, I am Australian. I live in the UK. I've lived here for 22 years, hence the strange accent. And as an Australian, I have a deep love for Australian bushflower essences, and sexuality is one that I use time and again. It's really helpful for releasing any shame that might be felt around sex, for feeling comfortable in the body, for increasing playfulness and more openness in your relationship. And often at menopause, we have lost that playfulness, so it's really well indicated. So there we go, 8 tips to help boost your libido. But as always, if you are not eating well, if you're not balancing your blood sugar levels, you are going to struggle with everything from hot flushes to low mood, to low energy, to weight gain, and of course loss of libido. So you have to get that right. You can't just take a zinc supplement and some macro and hope for the best. So if you haven't watched my menopause nutrition video, do watch that next. Get your nutrition sorted, because that will really help with every other tip that I've mentioned here. And don't forget to grab yourself a copy of the resource that I mentioned. The link is in the notes below.